So today we're going to cover section 4, and we're going to begin our trigonometry. Today we're only going to talk about the tangent ratio. Next week we're actually going to talk about the sine and the cosine ratio, but today just focus on the tangent. So trigonometry is actually just the study of triangles, more specifically the study of right triangles. So a trigonometric ratio is the ratio of the lengths of the two sides in a right triangle. We're going to be using these trig ratios to find the measure of a missing side or maybe a missing acute angle. So what's going to happen is they're going to give you some given information. They're either going to give you an angle and a side, or maybe they'll give you two sides. So they're going to give you some type of given information, and then you're going to have to find a missing piece from your triangle. Again, there's 3 that we're going to talk about in this course. Today we're only going to focus on the tangent ratio, but on Monday we're going to talk about the sine ratio and the cosine ratio. So let's go ahead and see what the tangent ratio is. So the tangent ratio is going to be the ratio of the leg opposite over the leg adjacent. So it's always going to be for a right triangle. So it's saying let ABC be a right triangle with acute angle A. When you want to find the tangent of A, it's going to be written as TAN, capital A, and then it's defined as following. It's going to be the length of the leg opposite to angle A over the length of the leg adjacent to A. And they've shown here that opposite is BC and adjacent is AC. So my advice to you is whatever angle they're asking you to write the ratio for, you're going to go ahead and label your sides. You're going to label one of the sides as opposite, one as adjacent to the angle, and then the other side will be labeled as hypotenuse. My advice to you is always label the hypotenuse first. It's going to be across or opposite from the right angle, so little c here is the hypotenuse. In relation to angle A, the side that is opposite to angle A is the little a over here, and we'll label this one as the opposite side. And then the side that's adjacent or next to angle A will be side little b. So this one is going to be the adjacent side. When we go to write our ratios, we're just going to take whatever number. It's going to have a number. Instead of a variable, it'll be a number. You just take the number that will be here, and that goes here. This is the opposite, and then the little b is the adjacent. Because remember, the trig ratio is going to be opposite side over adjacent side. Now, let's say we switched. Let's say instead they wanted us to find the tangent of acute angle B. Now I got to go back and change my names. So now this is no longer opposite to B. Little b is opposite to angle B. And then the little a here would be the adjacent side. The hypotenuse will still stay the hypotenuse. It's always opposite the right angle, which is the biggest angle, which is the biggest side. So if they ask you to write the trig ratio for tangent of B, then here I'm going to put little b, which is opposite, over little a. When you go to label your triangle, use the lowercase version of the letter that's opposite. So little a is going to be opposite angle A, and little b will be opposite angle B, and then little c is going to be opposite angle C. So this is how you can add in the variables a, b, and c when your triangle is named a, b, and c. Now let's try an application using the tangent ratio. So right now we're not using our calculator. All we're doing is creating ratios, just putting the two numbers into fraction form. So the first one wants us to express tangent r as a ratio. So what I need to do is label my sides in relation to angle r. Angle r is right here. So the side that's opposite to angle r is the 3. The side that's adjacent to angle r is the 8. Remember, the ratio for tangent is equal to opposite side over adjacent side. So when it wants me to write the tangent of r, I'm going to put 3 over 8. Now, this symbol that's right here, this is the Greek letter theta, and theta is usually used to hold the place of an angle. So just the generic version or the format for this is tangent of theta is equal to opposite over adjacent. When they actually give us the angle they want us to do, they're going to put it right here. Now let's switch it, and now let's find the tangent of s. Again, I'm putting opposite over adjacent, but now I got to fix the names on my sides. So now I'm talking to name the sides based on the relationship or their position in relation to angle S. So related to angle S, the 8 is now the side that is opposite, and the 3 is now the adjacent. So if I put it into tangent ratio, opposite over adjacent, 8 over 3. You will always only do these ratios, these trig ratios, for the acute angles. You'll never do it for the 90-degree angle. Always for the acute. Pretty good? Let's try the next one. Now we're going to use our calculator. When they give you a question and they say, find the tan of an angle, this is where you're going to either touch the tangent button and then put in the angle, or some calculators make you put the angle in first and then touch tangent. Now, for all of these trig ratios that we're going to do, your calculator must be in degrees. If it's in radians, when you do tangent of 45, you're going to get a crazy decimal. When you're figuring out the tangent of 45, the answer should be 1. If you're getting a crazy long decimal, you're in radians. And you either need to find a DRG button or a mode button that will change from radians to degrees. If you're on your iPad, there's a little button that says DEG or RAD. You just touch that and it switches you back and forth. So all we're going to do here, if your calculator wants you to hit the tangent button first, you do that. Then you put in 45, hit enter or equal, and it's 1. Some calculators will make you put 45 first and then hit the tan button. Either way, you get answer is 1. So figure out what sequence of buttons you need to push. Again, when you're doing this trig homework, yes?
I got like a decimal 1 point something. Should it just be 1?
Correct. You need to change, you're in radians. You need to figure out how to change your calculator into degrees. You're going to look for a button that says DRG, and then usually in the little display, it'll tell you what it's switching from. It might now, right now it might say RAD. You need to make it say DEG. When you do tangent of 36, you should be getting the decimal 0.7265. We're going to put 4 decimal places. On the test, it'll specify how many decimal places to leave. Now, notice this time, so the first two examples, they gave us the angle. Now, the next two, they're not giving us the angle, they're giving us the answer. So what we need to do is the inverse tan, and the way that we get to the inverse, we're either going to hit our second button or a shift, depending on your calculator, and then you would now touch the tangent button. It should open a tan -1. Then in there you put the answer, then put enter, and you should be getting, we're going to round to the nearest degree, 68 degrees. For the next one, again, we're looking for the angle measure, so we need to open up so it shows tan -1, put in the answer of 0.8098, hit enter. We're going to round it to 39 degrees. So in the homework, just read. Does it want you to round to the nearest degree? Does it want you to round to the nearest tenth? Just read how they want you to leave your answer. Now, when it asks you to complete a triangle, what that is expecting us to do is find all three angles and all three sides. So if it asks you to complete the right triangle, this is what we're going to do. So in order to complete this triangle, the first thing I'm going to do is find the missing hypotenuse. And the way that I can find the missing hypotenuse is by doing Pythagorean theorem. So I'm going to do a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Remember, this is little a, this is little b, and I'm going to look for c. So 2 squared plus 7 squared equals c squared. 4 plus 49 equals c squared. And then 49 plus 4 is 53. Going to square root 53. 53 cannot be broken down, so I'm just going to leave it as the square root of 53. Now I'm going to go back. So now I found all three sides. Now I need to find angle A and angle B, and that's what I'm going to answer in part C and D here. So let's first go and let's label our sides. Let's do part A. In order to answer part A, I need to figure out what are the opposite and adjacent sides in relation to angle A. Angle A is over here. So I know that the side that is opposite to angle A is going to be little a. It's going to be the 2. And the side adjacent is going to be the 7. So all they want us to do is put the numbers in the ratio for part A, 2/7. Now I'm going to label the sides in relation to angle B. Angle B is up here. So now the 7 now becomes opposite to B, and the 2 becomes adjacent to B. So opposite over adjacent is 7/2. Whenever you're looking for an angle measure, we always use the inverse tangent. So to find the measure of angle A, I'm going to be doing tangent -1. I'm going to take the ratio that I wrote in part A, and I'm going to put it into the calculator, 2/7. Now, if your calculator lets you enter it as a fraction, you'll do that. If it doesn't, you're just going to use the division sign. And you'll do 2 divided by 7, hit enter. We're going to list our answer. We're going to round it to the tenths place. So we're going to round it to 15.9. If it said to round to the nearest degree, we would round this to 16 degrees. So angle A rounded to the tenths place is 15.9, but rounded to the nearest degree would be 16. Again, just read the homework tonight, read the test when you take it to see what place they want you to round. To find angle B, we need to take the ratio that we wrote in part B, and we're going to do the inverse. Tangent, -1, 7 divided by 2, or if your calculator allows it, enter it in as a fraction. Once you hit enter, you're going to get 74.1. Rounded to the nearest degree is 74. Now, remember, one way you could check yourself is remember the three angles of a triangle add up to be 180. Also, angles A and B are complements. So all you had to do to double check was you could add 16 plus 74. If this does not add up to 90, you've done something wrong. So this is a way that you could double check your answer to make sure that you've done it correctly. Now, technically, if we were confident in this first answer that we got 16 for, we could have found angle B by doing 90 minus 16. And that would give us the measure of angle B. So if we were confident, we could have just subtracted it from 90. But if you're not sure, maybe you hit the wrong button, if you do this calculation and you found angle A wrong, then angle B is going to be wrong as well. So that's why it's always a good idea to double check. So if it says to complete the triangle, that means we're going to find the three angles and the three sides. So in order to find the missing side, and again, remember this is little a because it's across from angle A. This is little b. This is little c. To find little b, I have to do Pythagorean theorem. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. A squared is 8. I don't know b squared. C squared is 17, or c is 17. I'm going to square the 8. I'm going to square the 17. I need to isolate b squared, so I'm going to subtract 64. B squared equals 225. Square root it, and b equals 15. For those of you who have memorized your triples, an 8, 15, 17 is a common Pythagorean triple. If you knew that, you would save the time of the calculation. Now, I found all three sides because two of them were given to me. Now I need to go back and find the measure of angle A and angle B. I already know angle C, it's 90. So now it's just a matter of finding the acute angles. And again, I'm going to use my inverse tangent ratio. So let's first find angle A. I'm going to label my sides in relation to angle A. Angle A, opposite is the 8. Adjacent is the 15. The 17 is the hypotenuse. Let's go ahead and put it into the trig ratio. So the tangent to find angle A, inverse tangent, tangent -1, and then I'm going to do opposite over adjacent. And again, if your calculator doesn't enter it as a fraction, you're doing tangent -1, 8 divided by 15. You're going to hit enter. We're going to round it to the tenths place. So this is going to be 28.1. And this is angle, the measure of angle A. Now we're going to go ahead and find the measure of angle B. Now, I can do this. I can do 90 minus 28.1, and I can subtract here and get 61.9, and that's going to be the measure of angle B. Let's say on the test you're running out of time and you know it's a lot faster to do 90 minus the angle you just found. You can do that. But I highly recommend, if you have time, to do the tangent ratio for the other angle as well. So when we go back now and we label our sides based off of angle B, this now becomes opposite, and then this one becomes adjacent. So I'm going to do tangent -1, 15 over 8, hit enter, and I get 61.9. So my calculation for angle A was good, so I could have just done the 90 minus. And then the measure of angle C is the right angle. So when we complete the triangle, we are finding 3 angles and then the 3 sides. 2 of the sides were given, and I just had to find the third. So you find all missing pieces when it says to complete it. Pretty good? Okay. Now, this time, we don't have an A, B, and a C here, but I've got an angle measure. So if they give you a triangle and there's no letters on it, we still have to give the sides the appropriate names. So in relation to the angle, the acute angle that's listed here, which is the 24, I can see that the X is the side that's opposite to that angle, and the 20 is the side that's next to it, so it's the adjacent. Remember, the hypotenuse is always going to be across from the right angle. Now, in order to find X, we're going to set up an algebraic equation. So what I'm going to do is put it into the trig ratio. So really what we're filling in is the tangent of 24 degrees, I'll just put it in here as 24, equals the side opposite over adjacent. So let's fill it in. Tangent of 24 is equal to opposite over adjacent. Now remember, tangent of 24 is just a number that you're going to get from your calculator. So we need to solve for X. So we need to isolate X. The way that I will isolate X is I will multiply both sides by 20. It will cancel the 20 out of the bottom of the fraction. And now to find the value of X in my calculator, all I'm doing is multiplying 20 times the tangent of 24. It doesn't matter if you do tangent of 24 first or the 20, because multiplication is commutative. It doesn't matter the order I multiply. Once I go ahead and do this, I get X is equal to, rounded to the tenths, that's what they said in the instructions here, 8.9. Now, when you're finding these missing sides, I know we're not working with the hypotenuse yet, but remember, when you get these numbers, always remember the hypotenuse should be the biggest number, okay? Generally, your triangles are not going to be drawn to scale, so you can't go by, well, this leg looks bigger than this one, but always know, no matter what, the hypotenuse will always be the biggest number. All right, so let's keep going. Yes. So I hit 20 times, and then I did tangent 24, and then I hit enter. Now, or if you'd rather do tangent of 24 first, then hit times, and then hit 20, and then hit enter. Okay, some calculators, you may have to do tangent 24, hit enter, and then hit the multiplication sign, and then hit the 20, and then hit the enter. So this is why I highly recommend you practice with the calculator you're going to use for the test. Pretty good? Okay. Next slide. Still special right triangles. So let's just review what we learned about special right triangles. So we learned the 30, 60, 90. And we learned about the 45, 45, 90. And I'm going to write in the relationships of the sides, and I'm also going to draw it again. I'm just going to duplicate it because I'm going to show you how we're going to simplify it when we don't need other values. So we learned that the side across from the 30 was always A. The hypotenuse is 2 times that side, so 2 times A. The side across from 60 is A square root 3. In the 45, 45, remember these two sides are the same. So this leg could be A, this leg is A, and then the hypotenuse was always A square root 2. When we're asked to do the trig ratios, and they're just asking us to do it on a special right triangle, I'm not going to use the letter A. I'm just going to put the numeric part. So if you think about these A's of having like a 1A and a 1A and a 1A, the way that we're going to turn these into the numbers we need is we're not going to put the A's. So for the 30, 60, 90, we're just going to put root 3, the 2, and then the 1. We're taking all the A's out. For the 45, 45, we're taking the A's out and just leaving the numeric portions. Now I actually have values for the sides with no variables in them, and now I can find the tangent ratio of a 60-degree angle. So let's try it. So I'm going to label my sides based on the 60 degrees. Here's the 60. The 2 is the hypotenuse. The side across from the 60 is opposite. And the side next to it is adjacent. If I want to do tangent of 60, I'm doing the side opposite over the side that's adjacent. And this will simplify to the square root of 3. Now, I know it's not on here, but let's do the tangent of 45. Now, if it ever asks you to do the tangent of 45, it doesn't matter which 45 I choose, because look at my opposite and adjacent. They're the same numbers. So even if I label it in relation to this 45 that I just put a line around in red, this side is opposite, this side is adjacent. The tangent of 45, opposite over adjacent, is 1 over 1, and it simplifies to 1. And we did that on our calculator. Yes? The two sides, okay, if there's no other numbers in the problem, yes. If there was another number, let's say they said, solve this special right triangle, 45, 45, when the leg is, or the hypotenuse is 3 root 2. Then you know your A is going to be 3. Okay? But if they don't give you any numbers for the legs or the hypotenuses, then the hypotenuse, you're going to use the 1, 1 root 2. So if they just give you a word problem and it says, using special right triangle, find the tangent of a 60-degree angle, then you're using these two that I just drew. And those are the numbers that will always be on it. And this is what my Algebra 2 class is doing right now. So the definition of an angle of elevation is the angle that an upward line of sight makes with a horizontal line. So if you think about it, let's say your line of sight, let me draw a person here. So let's say you're standing right here, and the horizontal line, if you were looking straight ahead, and then let's say you're looking up at the sun, the angle that is created by you looking straight ahead first and then looking up towards the sun, this angle that is created by those two lines of sight is called an angle of elevation. And you are going to use this information to solve a lot of word problems. So let's try a word problem using this information about an angle of elevation. So here it says you are measuring the height of a spruce tree. You stand 45 feet from the base of the tree. You measure the angle of elevation from the ground to the top of the tree to be 59 degrees. Find the height, h, of the tree to the nearest foot. So they're rounding to the nearest foot, so the nearest whole number. So again, we've created a right triangle. Here is the horizontal line, and then you're looking up at the top of the tree. This created the angle of elevation of 59 degrees. I'm going to label the sides of my triangle that I just created in relation to the 59. So the H is going to be the side that is opposite, and the side that is adjacent is the 45. To find the height, I'm going to use the tangent ratio. So I'm going to do the tangent of 59 is equal to opposite over adjacent. I need to solve for h, so I need to get that 45 out of that bottom of the fraction. And now I'm going to multiply 45 times the tangent of 59. Hit enter. We're rounding to the nearest foot. When we do it, we get 74.89 something. Rounded to the nearest foot, 75 feet tall. So you will more than likely get a word problem on your test that will involve the angle of elevation. In the next upcoming lessons, we are also going to learn the angle of depression. And that would be looking down at something and the angle that is created. So that is it for the 5-4 notes. You do have a homework assignment on Canvas that is due on Monday.